Daddy, can we help her? Those 5 innocent words from a little girl changed everything. And what happened after, no one in the world could have imagined. If you're here, stay with me until the end of this story, because I promise, it will not only touch your heart, but it will also remind you of the power of kindness, courage, and faith. And before we begin, if stories like this inspire you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps us bring more powerful true stories to you. It was a cold evening, the kind of night where the city streets looked tired, and so did the people walking them. A single father named David, a veteran who had already given his youth, his strength, and nearly his life to his country, was walking home with his little daughter, Emily. Life hadn't been easy for him after leaving the army. His body carried scars no one could see, his soul carried battles he never spoke about, and his pockets, well, they were almost always empty. But he had something that kept him alive, something stronger than despair: Emily. She was his heartbeat, his anchor, his reason to keep moving. That night, as they walked past a dimly lit alley, Emily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, her eyes wide, "can we help her?" David turned his head and saw a young woman being surrounded by 3 men. They weren't just harassing her, they were closing in, dangerous and determined. David knew the look in their eyes. He had seen it in war zones. He had seen it in men who thrived on fear. In that moment, every instinct in him screamed to keep walking, to protect Emily, to avoid danger. But he looked down at his daughter, those innocent eyes staring up at him, expecting her hero to act. He couldn't let her believe that silence in the face of cruelty was an option. So, with a calm he didn't feel, David told her to stay behind a parked car and stepped forward. "Hey!" His voice cut through the alley like a blade. "Leave her alone." The men turned, sizing him up, smirking at the idea of a tired, middle-aged veteran standing against 3 of them. "Walk away, old man," one sneered. But David didn't move. He had faced worse odds in dusty streets halfway across the world. This wasn't about winning, it was about doing what was right. The fight was quick, brutal, and messy. David wasn't as fast as he once was, but his training, his grit, and his refusal to back down gave him an edge. He took hits, hard ones, but he gave back more. By the time the police sirens echoed in the distance, the 3 men were on the ground, scrambling to flee. The young woman was safe, trembling but alive. Emily ran into his arms. "Daddy, you're my hero," she whispered, her little arms wrapping around his battered frame. And in that instant, David didn't feel pain, or fear, or exhaustion. He only felt love. The next day, David woke up sore, his body aching from the fight. He went about his usual routine, making breakfast for Emily, preparing her lunch, walking her to school. Life didn't magically get easier overnight. The fridge was still half empty, bills still piled up on the counter, and his old boots still had holes he hadn't fixed. He never expected any reward for what he did. In his mind, he simply did what any father, any human being, should do. But fate had a different plan. That afternoon, as David and Emily returned home, they froze at the sight parked in front of their worn-down apartment building. Not 1, not 2, but 3 brand-new Rolls-Royce cars gleamed in the sunlight, polished to perfection, their presence almost surreal in such a humble neighborhood. Neighbors had gathered, whispering, pointing, trying to make sense of it. And then David saw her, the young woman from the alley. Except this time, she wasn't alone. A small team of assistants and security guards stood beside her. She walked straight to David with tears in her eyes. "You don't know me," she said, her voice trembling, "but you saved my life. I couldn't tell you last night, but my family, we're not ordinary people. We own one of the largest automotive companies in the world. And I realized something. No amount of money, no amount of success, can buy the kind of courage you showed me. You risked everything, for a stranger." David was stunned. He tried to brush it off, telling her he didn't need anything, that protecting her was simply the right thing to do. But she insisted. The 3 Rolls-Royces weren't just gifts, they were symbols of gratitude, a way to change his life, to ensure Emily never had to worry about the struggles he had faced alone. Tears filled David's eyes, though he tried to hide them. He looked at Emily, who was smiling from ear to ear. "Daddy, see, helping people is always good," she said softly, her childlike wisdom cutting deeper than any sermon. The story spread like wildfire. News channels picked it up. Social media exploded with admiration. People who had never met David were inspired by his courage, his humility, and the pure bond between a father and his daughter. But for David, the greatest reward wasn't the luxury cars or the attention. It was knowing that Emily had learned a lesson she would carry for life, that one act of courage, one decision to step forward instead of turning away, can change everything. As weeks passed, David used the opportunities that opened for him not for his own comfort, but to build a safer, brighter future for Emily. He donated one of the cars to a veterans' charity auction, sold another to pay off debts and secure Emily's education, and kept one, a constant reminder of the night where kindness and bravery turned into a miracle. And so, the story of the single dad veteran and his little girl became more than just a viral headline. It became a living proof that heroes still walk among us. Not perfect men, not rich men, not superhuman men, but fathers, mothers, ordinary people with extraordinary hearts. And tonight, as you're listening to this story, I want you to remember one thing: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to do what's right, even when you're terrified. If David hadn't acted, if Emily hadn't spoken those 5 simple words, "Daddy, can we help her?" none of this would have happened. So maybe the world doesn't need more wealth, or fame, or power. Maybe it just needs more of us willing to step forward, willing to care, willing to help. And maybe, just maybe, that's how miracles find their way into our lives. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of the goodness still alive in this world. Because sometimes, the smallest voices, like that of a little girl, lead us to the biggest miracles.